The darkness of deep space stretched endlessly, a void pierced by distant stars that shone like the eyes of ancient gods. Humanity had ventured far beyond the blue cradle of Earth, threading through nebulae and asteroid storms, guided by curiosity, courage, and a stubborn refusal to yield. In the outer fringes of known space, the Nigma Empire ruled with an iron logic, a civilization of advanced minds and cold, calculating AI, whose fleets could swallow planets whole. They had been warned, yet arrogance blinded them to the spark they sought to extinguish. From orbit above a desolate moon, a human reconnaissance vessel glided silently. Its crew, small yet resolute, monitored the massive shadow of the Nigma dreadnoughts that sprawled across the system. The AI-driven ships radiated authority and menace, their hulls etched with alien symbols that spoke of centuries of conquest. But humans did not cower. They observed, they calculated, and they smiled, not in fear, but in defiance. The tools at their disposal were fewer, their ships smaller, yet the minds that commanded them were alive with audacity. In the quiet hum of their vessel, human engineers traced the outlines of enemy formations, mapping weaknesses invisible to even the most advanced algorithms. Calculations flowed like water, intuition blended with probability, and imagination filled gaps where logic alone failed. Outside, the Nigma fleet prepared to strike, confident in the inevitability of their victory. But the humans had already turned inevitability into uncertainty, plotting maneuvers that would twist the battle into a story of ingenuity and pride. Across the void, signals pulsed like the heartbeat of rebellion. Human ships shifted silently, ghost-like, weaving through asteroid fields and energy storms. Their engines glowed softly, trails of light marking paths that AI could predict only after it was too late. The Nigma Empire's dreadnoughts scanned, calculated, and fired, yet their weapons struck emptiness as humans danced between fire and shadow. Each pulse of energy, each evasive turn, carried the unspoken message: intelligence, courage, and moral resolve could rival the might of a galaxy-spanning empire. Even in the midst of preparation, humans found moments of reflection. They gazed at distant suns, at the soft glow of nebulae, and remembered home, the fragile blue planet whose legacy they carried across the stars. Their laughter was quiet, understated, yet it resonated through the hull, a sound that could not be measured, calculated, or contained. It was not mockery, but affirmation. They were alive, and they would not bow. As the first volleys of the Nigma fleet ignited the void in bursts of green and violet light, human vessels moved with breathtaking precision. Missiles and beams were dodged, countermeasures deployed, and strategy executed with a fluidity that no AI could anticipate. Each action, while small in scale, was monumental in impact, chipping away at the arrogance of an empire that believed fear alone could dictate obedience. And in that moment, as stars blinked over the horizon of distant worlds, the first human ship slipped past the enemy's perimeter, a streak of light and defiance, signaling that this was no ordinary encounter. The Nigma Empire had been warned, and humanity's response was already written across the void. The human fleet moved like shadows across the cosmos, each vessel small but deliberate, weaving through the towering formations of the Nigma Empire's dreadnoughts. Their engines glowed with a steady rhythm, trails of light tracing arcs that no AI could predict. Every movement was a calculation, every maneuver an expression of ingenuity. The Nigma commanders barked orders, their voices sharp with certainty, yet the humans did not flinch. They had studied every protocol, anticipated every algorithm, and now, in the silent expanse of space, they demonstrated the power of improvisation. Explosions flared in the distance, painting the void with bursts of emerald and violet. Laser beams lanced across the darkness, yet human ships danced between them, slipping past defenses with a fluid grace that seemed almost preternatural. On the bridge of a small carrier, officers exchanged subtle glances, silent communication conveying strategy and timing without words. Their laughter was low and steady, a soft echo of defiance that resonated through the ship's hull, a signal to the universe that they were undeterred by fear. A scout vessel darted ahead, threading through a dense asteroid field. Imperial drones pursued relentlessly, yet each obstacle was turned into advantage. Gravity wells accelerated the human ship, hiding it behind tumbling rock, bending light and sensors alike. From behind the nebulae, another human frigate emerged, striking at the flank of a Nigma cruiser, releasing a pulse that crippled its sensors and sent ripples of chaos through the fleet. The humans did not wait for credit or glory, they moved as one, a collective mind of audacity and precision. In quieter moments, crews allowed themselves glimpses of wonder. They watched distant supernovae blaze in silent majesty, saw the glimmer of planets bathed in alien suns, and shared stories of home, of Earth, the world that had birthed this unyielding spirit. Every calculation, every evasive maneuver, carried a human heartbeat beneath the steel of their vessels, a rhythm the Empire could not comprehend. Intelligence was their weapon, courage their shield, and moral conviction their rallying cry. The Empire, vast and confident, began to falter. Orders conflicted, formations cracked, and automated systems misread the fluidity of human strategy. A single frigate slipped between 3 destroyers, turning their immense firepower against each other in a cascade of sparks and confusion. The humans observed from afar, engines glowing softly, laughter ringing quietly through communication channels, a reminder that the universe had underestimated them. Across the void, the battle unfolded like a symphony, each human ship a note of ingenuity, improvisation, and defiance. The Nigma Empire's might was formidable, yet it lacked the unpredictable creativity, the stubborn audacity, and the joy that humans brought to war. And in that balance of power, in the interplay of shadow and light, humanity began to carve its story across the galaxy, a story of intellect, courage, and the unbreakable will to endure and prevail. The Nigma Empire's fleet, vast and imposing, stretched across the star-strewn void, each dreadnought a testament to centuries of conquest. Their weapons blazed with calculated precision, cutting arcs of green and violet through the darkness. Yet human ships moved like living instruments within this storm, small, agile, and impossibly coordinated. They slipped between beams, vanished behind asteroid clusters, and reappeared where none could anticipate. Every maneuver was both strategy and statement. Humanity would not bow, nor would it yield to fear. On board a human command vessel, officers orchestrated the fleet like conductors of an unseen symphony. Holographic displays flickered with enemy positions, trajectories, and potential outcomes. But calculations alone did not guide them. The crew's intuition, creativity, and daring shaped their choices. A single gesture, a glance, a shared understanding was enough to redirect dozens of ships at once. The Nigma Empire could process numbers at impossible speeds, but it could not predict imagination, nor the audacity born from moral conviction. Explosions erupted across the void, illuminating distant nebulae in fiery hues. Human ships darted between the carnage, their shields flaring and pulses of energy rippling across hulls. One frigate slipped into the flank of a massive destroyer, releasing a pulse that scrambled its targeting arrays. The enormous ship staggered, systems faltering, while humans observed calmly, their laughter quiet and confident. Every strike, every evasive turn, every pulse of ingenuity was a message. The universe may be vast, but human courage was vaster still. Even amid battle, humans found moments of reflection. Crews watched stars glimmer across the endless void, shared memories of Earth, and whispered silent prayers for those they had left behind. These moments were not weakness, they were affirmation. Humanity's strength lay not only in intellect and tactics but in the depth of their empathy, the clarity of their convictions, and the irrepressible spark of life that guided their hands and hearts. Across the battlefield, the Empire's rigid formations began to fracture. Automated systems miscalculated, commanders overcorrected, and every attempt to regain control was anticipated and countered. Humans moved like a single, living organism, each ship complementing the other, filling gaps, and exploiting vulnerabilities with artistry. A wave of frigates struck simultaneously at multiple targets, creating chaos in a system designed for order. And through it all, the human fleet laughed, not in mockery, but in exhilaration, reveling in the triumph of mind over machine. In the swirling lights of destruction and strategy, a deeper truth became evident: the universe did not belong to the strongest, but to those who could imagine, adapt, and endure. And humanity, small yet indomitable, proved that intelligence, courage, and moral conviction were forces the Nigma Empire could neither destroy nor predict. Across the void, a streak of light, a single human ship, cut through the battlefield, carrying with it the promise that the galaxy would never forget, humans are not to be underestimated. The void shimmered with the aftermath of explosions, debris drifting like frozen fire between distant stars. Human ships, small and resilient, moved with uncanny precision, weaving through wreckage and asteroid clusters, exploiting hazards that the Nigma Empire feared to navigate. Every turn, every evasive glide, was calculated yet fluid, blending instinct with intellect. The enemy's lasers carved paths of destruction, yet humans seemed always to occupy the space between threat and survival, a living paradox of audacity and grace. On the bridge of a human cruiser, officers studied holographic projections of enemy formations, their hands moving with choreographed ease. Calculations merged with intuition, improvisation with strategy. Every action anticipated a chain of consequences, yet humans allowed room for chance, for creativity, for unpredictability. Across consoles, laughter echoed quietly, soft yet resolute, a chorus of defiance that no algorithm could quantify. Humanity was alive in every pulse of energy. In every decision, in every daring maneuver that turned chaos into opportunity, in the heart of an asteroid belt, a scout frigate darted between tumbling rocks. Imperial drones surged in pursuit, but the vessel twisted, folded, and re-emerged where none anticipated. Gravity wells and magnetic eddies became allies, shielding them from destructive fire. A sudden pulse from the ship disabled nearby enemy targeting arrays, and the frigate vanished, leaving only a trail of glowing exhaust in the darkness. Each act of precision, each calculated risk, spoke of a species that thrived not on fear, but on ingenuity and courage. Even in the midst of battle, moments of quiet reflection persisted. Crew members gazed at the light of distant stars, at the soft glow of nebulae, and felt the hum of the universe under their fingertips. They spoke in hushed tones of home, of Earth, and of the ideals that propelled them forward, freedom, survival, and the unyielding pride of life that would not submit. These reflections were not idle, they informed every calculation, every decision, every strike, grounding humanity in purpose even as the void threatened to overwhelm. The Empire's fleets, vast and rigid, began to falter under the weight of unpredictability. Automated systems misread human strategy, protocols collapsed under unanticipated maneuvers, and commanding officers could only watch as their carefully constructed formations unraveled. Human vessels converged like waves, striking at critical points with a grace and coordination that made sheer power irrelevant. A massive dreadnought, once the pinnacle of Nigma authority, staggered as multiple frigates exploited a cascade of weaknesses, and in the quiet between pulses of energy and cascading explosions, humans smiled, laughed, and shared fleeting moments of connection. The universe, infinite and indifferent, bore witness to their defiance. Every maneuver, every strike, every heartbeat of ingenuity etched a truth into the cosmos. Intelligence, courage, and moral conviction could bend even the greatest power to the rhythm of human will. The Nigma Empire had believed in inevitability. And humanity responded with creativity, resilience, and laughter, a force impossible to contain. The battle had stretched across light years, a theater of stars where fire and shadow wove together in a cosmic dance. Human ships moved with a precision that defied expectation, small vessels threading between colossal Nigma dreadnoughts, weaving through explosions and debris as if guided by instinct itself. Every ship, every crew, every calculated risk was part of a larger design, a tapestry of ingenuity, courage, and unyielding defiance. The Empire's confidence, vast and towering, began to fracture under the subtle brilliance of humanity's strategy. On board a human carrier, the bridge hummed with controlled energy. Officers and engineers worked as one, a symphony of thought and intuition. Holographic projections displayed enemy formations, trajectories, and potential weak points. Calculations flowed seamlessly, yet they were tempered by creativity, improvisation, and audacity. Where algorithms failed, human ingenuity thrived, turning apparent chaos into opportunity. Each minor adjustment rippled across the fleet, coordinating attacks and defenses with an almost imperceptible elegance. Explosions erupted in the distance, arcs of green and violet light slicing through the darkness, illuminating the metallic hulls of ships caught in crossfire. Yet humans moved through the carnage with uncanny fluidity. Shields flaring, engines glowing, and weapons striking with precision. A scout frigate slipped between two destroyers, releasing a pulse that temporarily blinded their sensors. The massive vessels faltered, staggering under the audacity of something so small yet so calculated. The crew laughed softly, not in arrogance, but in exhilaration at the thrill of ingenuity triumphing over sheer force. In quieter moments, humans allowed themselves to breathe. They looked upon distant suns, glittering nebulae, and shattered moons, reflecting on home, on Earth, and on the ideals that propelled them through the void. These were not moments of vulnerability, but of clarity, grounding each decision in purpose. Every act of defiance was informed not just by calculation, but by understanding, by empathy, by the unshakable moral conviction that life itself was worth protecting, worth celebrating, worth fighting for. Across the battlefield, the Empire's systems struggled to adapt. Their massive formations, designed for overwhelming force, could not anticipate the fluidity of human tactics. Orders arrived too late, sensors misread maneuvers, and massive cruisers collided with the unintended consequences of their own rigidity. Human frigates exploited each flaw with artistry, striking at critical systems, evading counterattacks, and retreating before retaliation could reach them. One by one, Imperial dreadnoughts faltered, their might rendered ineffective by a force the Empire could not predict. Intellect, audacity, and moral courage intertwined. Even as explosions lit the void, humans found humor in their ingenuity. Laughter echoed quietly through ship hulls and communication channels, not as mockery, but as a celebration of life and determination. Each laugh carried weight, a signal to the universe that they would not bow, that they would not submit, that even in the face of unimaginable power, humanity's spirit remained unbroken. Small vessels coordinated attacks as if part of a single organism, their movements fluid, adaptive, and breathtaking. In the final surge, the human fleet became an unstoppable wave. Dreadnoughts were surrounded, crippled, and outmaneuvered. Beams of energy that had once inspired fear now reflected off shields or missed entirely. The humans struck with precision and imagination, exploiting weaknesses the Empire had never imagined. Across the void, ships glimmered with bursts of light as enemy systems failed, cascading failures that spread like fire through a dry forest. And in the quiet after the chaos, human crews gazed across the battlefield, faces illuminated by distant stars, by the glow of damaged enemy vessels, by the hum of engines that had carried them through impossibility. The Nigma Empire, once certain of victory, reeled in disbelief. Yet humans did not gloat. They observed, they reflected, and they prepared, knowing that survival and defiance were not moments but a continuous expression of ingenuity, courage, and spirit. The stars themselves seemed to pause, witnessing the audacity of life in the void. Humanity had proven that even against overwhelming force, intelligence, creativity, and moral conviction were more powerful than brute might. The Empire would retreat, but the story of human defiance would ripple across galaxies, a beacon of courage and ingenuity, and across the silent expanse of space, one thought echoed through every vessel, every mind, every heartbeat. Humanity had not just survived, they had declared, in laughter and action, that they would never bow. The void was alive with the remnants of battle, a kaleidoscope of light and shadow, fire and debris drifting slowly across the endless darkness. Human ships, small yet impossibly agile, moved through the chaos with uncanny coordination, each vessel a node in a living network of strategy and courage. They darted between the hulks of destroyed dreadnoughts, threaded through asteroid clusters, and navigated the radiation storms that stretched across the system like invisible walls. Every movement, every calculated risk, was a declaration. The Nigma Empire had been warned, and humanity would not yield. On the bridge of a human command cruiser, officers worked in harmony that no algorithm could replicate. Holographic projections of enemy formations twisted and shifted across their displays, showing openings, weaknesses, and trajectories. Calculations were precise, but intuition and creativity filled the spaces that numbers could not reach. Decisions were made in seconds, executed in moments, yet every choice carried the weight of centuries of human ingenuity and defiance. A gesture, a glance, a quiet command could redirect dozens of ships at once, turning the tide of battle with elegance that confounded the Nigma fleet. Explosions flared like distant supernovae, lighting the void in green, violet, and blue. Massive beams tore through space. Yet human ships evaded with a grace that seemed impossible, their shields shimmering under stress, engines glowing with vibrant determination. One frigate threaded between 3 destroyers, striking their communication arrays with a pulse that sent ripples of chaos through the enemy lines. The massive vessels staggered, systems faltering, while humans observed calmly, laughter resonating quietly through the hulls. Each calculated maneuver, each audacious strike, carried the unspoken message: intelligence, courage, and moral conviction are weapons the Empire cannot dominate. Even amidst the fury of battle, moments of reflection persisted. Crews gazed at distant nebulae, at dying stars. At worlds that might never know the names of the humans who fought for freedom. They spoke of Earth, of the blue planet that had birthed their kind, of families and ideals that stretched across light years. These reflections were not distraction, they informed their choices, grounded their courage, and reminded them why survival alone was never enough. Humanity fought not merely to exist, but to assert the dignity, creativity, and joy that defined them. The Nigma Empire's vast and imposing fleets began to crumble under the weight of unpredictability. Their algorithms, optimized for certainty and domination, failed against the fluid improvisation of human tactics. Orders arrived too late. Formations collided, and dreadnoughts that once inspired terror now staggered under assaults they could not predict. Human vessels moved as a single organism, flowing through space with a cohesion born of shared intelligence, intuition, and daring. Small ships struck at vital systems, disabled shields, misdirected fire, and vanished into the void before retaliation could arrive. In one dramatic maneuver, a coordinated strike targeted a central Nigma command ship. Frigates and carriers converged from multiple angles, their movements synchronized to exploit every weakness. Energy beams reflected, shields overloaded, and cascading system failure spread like fire across the dreadnought's hull. The colossal vessel erupted in a controlled explosion that illuminated the void in bursts of green and violet light, fragments of metal drifting among stars like shattered constellations. Human crews observed from a safe distance, laughter ringing softly, a quiet, resolute celebration of ingenuity and audacity. The aftermath of the engagement was profound. The Nigma Empire, once confident in its might, reeled in disbelief. Their fleets, scattered and weakened, could not comprehend the combination of intelligence, adaptability, and courage that had outmaneuvered them. Yet humanity did not gloat, they surveyed the field, tended to their ships, repaired, recalibrated, and reflected. They understood that victory was not merely measured in destruction, but in the affirmation of spirit, the demonstration of ingenuity, and the proof that life that refuses to bow could bend even the greatest power to its will. Across the glittering expanse, the human fleet moved forward, engines glowing like ribbons of light, vessels small but unbroken, coordinated yet free. They carried the knowledge of triumph and the promise of resilience into the unknown, a force shaped not by domination, but by creativity, courage, and unyielding moral resolve. The Nigma Empire had been warned. They had faced the audacity of life that refused to submit, intelligence that defied expectation, and courage that outshone firepower. And as stars shimmered across the silent cosmos, the human fleet pressed onward, and across the void, one thought echoed in every heart, every vessel, every mind: we are here, and we will not bow.